Hello, my dear church boys, and welcome back to yet another episode of Saint Robert's Daygame and Dating podcast. Just as usual, when I have guests on my podcasts to preserve their privacy, this episode will be audio only. Niko is a beginner day gamer who has already slept with around 5 girls from Daygame. It is one thing to listen to interviews with advanced day gamers who have 50 or more Daygame lays, who are so experienced and have had all the wild adventures. Yes, it's inspiring, but it's not very actionable because their experiences are very different from what you're going through. So I want to offer guys an opportunity to learn from journeys of other day gamers, other beginners who are starting to get some results. Me and Niko were talking about his story, how he started learning Daygame. We're talking about the benefits of learning Daygame in an easier Daygame city, getting his first 2 lays, one of which was with an OnlyFans model, the harsh reality of what percentage of guys actually succeed in Daygame, 2 ways you can take your Daygame to the next level if you are already getting laid. We chat a bit about feminism and incels, why you should talk about Daygame with your grandpa if he's still alive, Daygame for digital nomads, and what to do when girls ask you questions, why are you single and what are you looking for. You'll find all the timestamps in the description, so feel free to skip to parts that are more interesting for you. And before we jump into this conversation, a few updates as always. First of all, if you're a busy entrepreneur or a traveler who simply doesn't have time to go through hundreds of hours of Daygame content online to find stuff that actually works, then well, head over to my website. I've put together the best materials for learning to chat up beautiful and interesting women in everyday situations. There you'll find a model I use to coach my students, explained in a simple step-by-step technical way. And if you are already getting some numbers, you'll get access to my texting course to convert more of those numbers to dates. And if you're already going out on dates, you'll get access to my dating course to have more of those dates end up in your bedroom. And all of that is available for free on saintrobert.blog. That is strobert.blog. And if you want to learn Daygame with me, then well, I'm in Europe right now, but the only coaching spots I had here are already booked. I'm heading to Asia soon, and I'll be in Thailand for a month. Then I'm heading to Japan for a month, and closer to spring, in late April, I will be in Japan for a few weeks. So if you want to learn Daygame with me there, you'll find a link in the description where you can find all the information about how coaching with me usually works. And now let's listen to the conversation with Niko. And here we are with Niko. Niko, why did you choose this nickname? Because I told you to come up with a nickname, so we're not giving away your personality.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, thanks for having me. Let's start with that. But yeah, I have chosen this nickname because it comes from the protagonist of Grand Theft Auto 4. Which is like a Serbian mobster that moves to the USA, and my haircut or my receding hairline is kind of reminiscent of him. So, and I also come myself from like an ex-U country, from ex-Yugoslavia. So that's why I went with this nickname. I didn't put much thought into it, but I think it's good.
Okay, so we're starting to get into your background because we're gonna tell your story, your Daygame story, but as always, I like people to get an idea who I'm talking with because there are very different people learning to chat up women out there. Some are, in their early 20s and good-looking tall guys and charismatic dudes, and then there's everything else, and you have kind of 35-year-old kind of online entrepreneur dudes, and you have 45-year-old dads out of a relationship getting back in the dating market. So different people kind of associate themselves with different audiences or different kind of day gamers. So let's go into a little bit of a background info about you. Obviously, we're not going to go into very specific details because I prefer my guests to stay anonymous for various reasons. Maybe some people don't understand that it's good to stay anonymous for a lot of the guys out there learning this stuff, because there's still a lot of stigma, although we're not doing anything bad, quite the opposite. So we're already established that you are from former Yugoslavia, so let's leave it at that. And your hairline is receding, so I will assume you're what, kind of around 30ish, mid 30s, or
No,
how old are you?
I'm in late 20s. Yeah, I'm
Late 20s.
unfortunate. I'm unfortunate enough to have had my hairline began to recede early, but yeah, I don't. It's not terrible. It could be worse.
It could be like mine is what you're saying, yeah.
Maybe, yeah. So yeah, I can go quickly over like who I am, or did you
Sure.
wanted to add something?
No, yeah, let's do that.
Yeah.
Let's do that. Who are
All
you?
right,
Kind of.
Yeah. So basically, I'm in my late 20s, as I said. I work in like IT industry as a software engineer. I have worked in like that's been my whole life basically. I've been fairly successful in my career. As you know, as it is obvious, it is a very like kind of like a solitary, individualistic endeavor, right? Like sitting in front of your computer for long hours. But when I was younger, in my like early 20s, I had like quite a wild party lifestyle. So I had my like fair share of I wouldn't even call them dating experience, just maybe like more like sexual experiences. And I did, I didn't really like. I wouldn't say I struggled super hard, to I don't know, like get the attention of the opposite sex, but I do feel that I still have kind of like missed out, especially on like, not having some agency in that regard, not like just like random hookups that like happen randomly, but actually, seeing someone, liking someone, and being able to, take it from there to, a date and hopefully sleep with them, right? And that's something that like a skill set that I did feel that I have not really developed. So that's kind of like why I wanted to really get into that day game. And, despite, my like, I don't know, what do you call it, like body count being like, I don't know, close to 30 maybe, I would still, I still felt that, like just being fully dependent on like apps and, like just random chance and like maybe social circle is what wasn't like the way to go to really, I don't know, have the most interesting experience and live out my life and my time in the best possible way, right? For something like that, like more agencies required.
Yeah, and a lot of people come to Daygame. People come to Daygame from very, very different dating backgrounds. There are guys I've worked with, but I've worked with quite a few guys who have very little sexual experience, or maybe guys who have had zero sexual experience. And I worked with guys who are very experienced, have many lays already, but they kind of say the same thing that you do, that they wanted to have more control, and they thought that the skill of seeing a girl in any everyday situation and then being able to chat her up, and that's a whole new level. And then you are the one in control, and of course you are still in your late 20s, so that's a little bit different, but this changes a lot when you hit your 40s, because then a lot of people meet women in their everyday life in these also social situations, friends of friends, work, etc. But then when you're in your 40s, all of a sudden women in your social circle are also in their 40s. And that's where it changes a lot. So previously you said you used to meet girls, it was mostly partying and some online, right? Or have you tried any other kind of, I don't know,
such as like maybe some random social circle hookups?
Yeah, mostly it's work social
not.
circle, but stuff
No,
like that.
work definitely not. Work definitely not, because I'm not into like software engineers, which are like predominantly guys and also unattractive guys. So yeah, I'm definitely not my type. But yeah, the work I wouldn't say. As that's another thing. I feel that a lot of people are actually in the community because have like I don't know, like IT background or something like that, especially because specifically because like in the IT space, like it's just mostly guys, and it's like a predominantly male industry. So that kind of you don't get the opportunities like in that part of your life. So you have to like have another venue, and if you don't have it, then you're kind of left with the apps, and the app sucks. The apps suck, and I can actually talk about that, kind of like how if you're interested, how I felt very strongly recently, before I really got into this, how it's kind of very I really didn't like the idea that like some Silicon Valley company would have basically would decide for me who is kind of in my range and who I can date and who I can, because like behind the scenes, all these like Tinders and Bumbles and so on have like an ELO kind of like score that is assigned to your profile, and they expect you to, I don't know, invest the time into application and check out every profile. And if you're just going to swipe right on all of them like you did, your score is going to go down and stuff like that. I really didn't want to spend that time on the app, and I really didn't like the idea, because we can pretend that okay, everyone will like choose one person on the app whether they like them or not, but in reality, everyone will be focused on, for example, the first 10 cards in the stack, right? Every girl, the girl will spend like 10 minutes on the app a day maybe, and she'll focus on the first 10 cards, and after those 10 cards, basically, her, I don't know, a degree of her attention will drop, and like if I appear somewhere like at the 50th place, I'm definitely not going to end up being swiped right. And I also, I didn't want to really invest a lot of time into like working on my profile, and just leaving it all to random chance. So I just decided at some point that I'm going to delete apps altogether as an experiment, and see if I can do it another way. And as it turns out, I can do it another way.
Boom. So you talked a lot about kind of what's happening behind the scenes in the apps. The stuff you said, I heard it before, but have you seen the data published, or is that a theory?
I talked to a guy that used to work at one of these Silicon Valley companies, and I didn't believe him, and I challenged him on that, and he said, I saw the code. So I don't know if they still use the same, like this, exactly the same algorithm, but there is some sort of like an invisible ranking of all the profiles, right? And the app definitely works in that way, right? So for example, also if you don't have like the premium feature, right, and you only have like a limited number of swipes, for example, right, you will notice that the last profile they show you, the one that you can swipe right, is always someone who's ridiculously attractive, and like you really want to swipe right, for example. So they know who is more attractive, who is less attractive, and they use that to like basically manipulate you or hook you. I truly believe that. And like I don't have like hard evidence for it, but everything seems to like support it, support the conclusion.
Oh, that's so interesting. But I've heard these things. I would be very actually curious to chat with your buddy and to maybe interview him. It would be so interesting. Maybe not publicly if he can't talk about it publicly, but even privately for like a small audience, just community only, would be just incredible. Because that guy has probably seen a lot of stuff and knows a lot of things. And you are saying this as a guy in your late 20s, so we can only imagine how dating life is. Well, I know how apps are for guys in their kind of late 30s, because I will play with apps for a little bit when I go to a city where I think it could be good, but I will literally test it for like a day. And then, because you can very fast, you can understand this city is either going to be really, really good, like 1 out of 10 cities, and the rest is going to be complete crap. So I give it a day, and if it's good, I do it, and if it's crap, then I don't do it. For example, right now I'm in Cali, Colombia, and in Cali, Colombia, the thing is, on the streets you will not see those beautiful girls on the streets, but you will see them on apps. Although there are places where you can go day game here with very quality, with very, very beautiful girls. Because I was here with another guy from our community, and he went to those places in day game and did very, very well. He showed me the girls he went out with, so it was really, really good. But And you know, as the older people get, the harder it gets. And you're saying this as a guy in his late 20s, where it's supposedly to be like the peak time for doing that, and still it's terrible. So okay, one thing I do want to kind of quickly talk about before we get into the grass is, let's talk about your lifestyle a little bit, because you're not the typical guy from former Yugoslavia who's you know, sitting in his office and just working 9 to 5. You
Right.
live a bit more interesting lifestyle.
Definitely. Yeah, I'm. You could say I'm a digital nomad. I mean, my nomading has mostly been in Latin American countries. For 2 years, I have been in Europe over the summer for a couple of months, but the rest of my time for the last 2 years I've spent in various countries in Latin America. I learned Spanish, and I don't know. I'm kind of got used to it, and I really also like just like the idea that I'm, like, because I don't know, maybe like 10 years, I'll have a family, I'll have responsibilities, I'll maybe work an office job, so I'll not be able to take advantage of that. And I feel that now is the time to like see the world, and have no regrets later. And yeah, I just love to travel. I actually, like, I'm actually interested, in like just chatting with the locals, whether they're attractive or not, hearing their perspectives and, like learning about their culture and so on. I always enjoyed that, even before I really got into like Daygame and so on. So I think it's yeah, it's definitely a plus also in terms of, how interesting you are if you've seen a lot of the world. But I'm definitely, in the future, I'm planning to go to like Southeast Asia as well and so on, like, or not just Southeast Asia, Asia in general and so on. I have a lot more travel plans, a lot more destinations that I would like to visit. And yeah, my work's fully online, so I can, afford to do that. But I guess not everyone can.
Yeah, but a lot of people can. Like, a lot of people that I work with, I would say there's two groups that I mostly work with. It's guys who are like good at what they do for a living, just like you are, but from very different industries, and they're just really busy dudes who prefer, to have someone who just shows them the ropes and teaches them how stuff works quickly. Or it's traveling guys. A lot of traveling guys are learning day game, especially every time I go to Latin America. I work with Nomads, and that's always very interesting.
Right.
So you said that you want to enjoy this opportunity right now to travel the world, see places. Uh, what's your date? What are your dating goals in general? Maybe a few years down the line, looking in the future. What's the plan?
Yeah, that's actually, that's because I was really happy with my lifestyle. Kind of, I feel that I, like just traveling and like seeing the world and all that stuff, having all this experience is really nice. But I did feel that, it would be so much better, if I could just go to any place and just, also meet some people there, meet some girls, and, just like have fun and, like maybe, I don't know, like sleep with a hot local girl, but also, like she can show me around and so on. That just makes the, like would make the travel like so much more satisfying. And also, it's a fact that when you're living this kind of a lifestyle, you do get kind of lonely. You don't know people, you go to a new place, you don't know anyone and so on. So a day game is just it's a beautiful way to get to know someone in the best way possible, right? And yeah, so that's like short term, I would definitely say that's it. Sorry, go on.
I was actually thinking the same. I always learn the most about the real life wherever I go from the girls that I'm seeing there, because you meet a lot of other kind of nomads and expats, and they have their views about how things work there. But then you meet girls who are born there and raised there, and they've seen how things really are, and that really put things into a different perspective. So okay, so the short-term plan is to explore different places, meet beautiful and interesting girls there, and enjoy your time with them, have them show around you a little bit. Is there a long-term plan as well, or just a short-term plan?
Yeah, no, I would definitely say that, like I'm kind of honing my skill of like seduction basically. And I do feel that, at some point later on, I will either through Daygame or through another way, I'll meet someone that I don't know, maybe I want to like marry, maybe I want to have a family, maybe I just want to have like a long-term relationship. It doesn't necessarily have to be monogamous one, but yeah. So like at that point, I hope that I'll accumulate like enough experience and so on that I'll really be able to like, kind of like have a pick, and be able to really end up in a quality relationship with someone who is both beautiful and amazing, but that's down the road. It's like 5 years plus.
Yeah, I like your plan. I like your plan. Actually, I always say that there are three types of guys that reach out to me. Or rather that want to learn day game, and the old school kind of stereotype was that all day gamers want to do is just get laid with a lot of chicks, and that's it. But that's only one part. And then there are guys. There are sometimes guys who are like, I want a wife on yesterday, and I usually point them in another direction. But the biggest group is actually sort of guys like you who are like, okay, I want to do this. I want to have some fun. I want to meet girls. I want to polish my dating skills, improve my skills, and then when kind of a few years down the line, when I really have some better skills, I can meet someone that's really cool and not just beautiful, because beautiful is fun for a while, but then you're kind of like, okay, what else do we have here? And then you have enough kind of how to talk to women, and then you have your kind of you have better options, let's put it like that, and you can actually meet someone who you would love to start a relationship with, not just whoever is fine with swiping right on you on your app, or whoever your sister introduces with or your colleagues, or or however else these things happen. I don't even know. um and this group is definitely the largest. And you laughed when I said that there are guys who want a wife on yesterday, and I always send them somewhere else. Is because when someone wants a wife on yesterday, like really like yesterday, kind of come on, that's the only thing I'm interested in. There's usually, I've noticed that like the personality, there are some quirks in their personalities. It's just that it's sort of like there are the red pill guys who just who are very kind of anti-feminism, and they hate women and whatnot, and
Right.
all of those weird opinions. They are weirdos. And then there's another type of guys that I don't really like, and those are the guys that desperately want to be married as soon as possible, and with the first girl they meet, and then there's usually something going on that I don't want to be involved with. So
Yeah, it's also quite a needy position, right? It's like if you're
exactly. So you started Daygame. How long ago did you discover Daygame? And yeah.
like it's interesting. When I was like, I would even say in my like late high school or like early college years, I was actually like reading about the Daygame and watching all these videos and read a couple of books and so on. But I never really got to like, I didn't never gather the courage. I just had didn't have like a very high self-esteem back then and so on, and I never gathered the courage to really do anything about it. And then more recently, I would say that I got more interested in these like 3 or 4 months ago. But yeah, so I got kind of into it, and I was looking around, and I came across your videos, and they kind of resonated with me. Yeah, especially because specifically because I like it was refreshing to see the absence of like some super misogynistic, like red pill kind of like, oh yeah, you just have to, I don't know, like it's weird, we all know how weird like the PUA subculture is, and yeah, that was really refreshingly absent from your video. So I was like, okay, maybe this is not such a bad thing in itself, maybe like just a lot of people are doing it in the wrong way, and you can actually do it in like a healthy and relaxed way, and just like have like this more natural and more exciting and more fun way to meet people. But also, another important aspect for me was kind of that I like quit drinking, quit going to parties, quit doing all those things, so, and also started traveling a lot, and just like having to like reset my social circle at every new place that I arrived to. I did feel that I have to kind of like find another way to meet people. And in addition to that, I also like just felt kind of like very compelled to just challenge myself in that way, you know, because it would happen to me often in my past life as well, you know, just seeing someone and, you know, like really wanting to have to talk to them, but not knowing what to say, you know, and like just feeling that anxiety and then the depression that follows when you fail to act on it, you know, like in that fight or flight situation, you know, when you opt for the flight and you're just like unhappy with yourself afterwards, you know.
Yeah.
So that was really something that, you know, kind of like bothered me, you know. And yeah, I did. So initially, you know, it was more like just, okay, can I do it? Can I do it? And that those were my like first few approaches, I would say, you know, maybe even like some of them, maybe even like, yeah, like 4 months ago and so on. Nothing came of them, you know, but I was just kind of like happy that, you know, I could just got over the fear, you know. And then I arrived here in Latin America and I kind of started taking it more seriously, and I kind of reinitiated all the, you know, reinitiated the whole thing, you know, like maybe I would say like 2 months ago, we had like we talked a bit and I started doing like, you know, first like maybe one approach a day and so on. And then I just kept ramping it up, and it's kind of been like it has taken on a more and more important role in my life, and that's actually something that I want to discuss, because I do feel that I'm becoming a bit obsessive about it. Maybe, you know, it's becoming a bit of an addiction, you know.
Welcome to Daygame.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, but yeah, then from that point onwards, you know, I went through the community materials, you know, really like put down all the notes, and, you know, just started knowing what to say, started knowing how to act, started like having like a structure, you know, that, you know, I can follow, and, you know, soon after, like, follow the confidence that I can actually do that. And after that, you know, also like the first results, you know. But yeah, it took me a couple of months to get to this level, at the level at which I am now, which is like a level where I really don't have approach anxiety, I would say. You know, it's not really like a big problem, you know. And I kind of like I'm there's no like I cannot deny, you know, that I'm like a beginner, you know, but I I'm not totally clueless, you know. I kind of like at least feel that I kind of know what the next step should be and so on, you know.
It's good because that means you're kind of. It takes around different. It's different for different people, but on average, if you're learning the right way, I would say it takes around 200 approaches to understand kind of how the model looks. Kind of, okay, this is the opener, and now I'm gonna stack, and now I'm gonna go into the storytelling, and I'm gonna tease and fuck, wait. There are some fucking fighter jets flying over me all the time. And previously you were talking, so I just muted myself, but I'll have to cut it out. Yeah, so on average, a day gamer needs around kind of 200 sets to understand where he is in a model. And then he says, okay, now I'm opening, now I'm storytelling, and now I do this to get to the hook point. And okay, after hook point, I do this. And then there's the number close. Like the day gamers kind of understand where what is located. Maybe they don't know how each of these parts gonna work, but it doesn't matter, because as soon as you kind of get the good understanding of the fundamentals in general, that just it gets you going, especially in like place where you are right now. It's really, really cool. We're going to talk about that later, how it's really good actually. Actually, let's talk about it now. It's really good to learn in a place where you are right now, because you are in a second tier city in Argentina, not in Buenos Aires, in a different place. And
Right.
those places are, I would call them the easiest places for I mean, no, it's not like Colombia. Colombia is going to be way easier than Argentina. Argentina is hard, definitely harder than Colombia.
Oh,
But
really?
those secondary city, oh yeah, 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 yeah. But Colombia still is, Argentina still is like fairly, it's fairly okay. But second tier cities in Argentina are really kind of good because there's no day gamers, and chicks don't talk to a lot of foreigners, and it's really nice. So they're easy. So they're good for learning the fundamentals, because you get an opportunity to practice all these, kind of figure out where how each part of the set works, and you get to practice it in sort of like a, kind of like, it's not tutorial mode, but it's like a lower difficulty if you were to play like a computer game or something like that. And it's very, very valuable, because then you learn those things and you know how they work. And then when you go to a different country, maybe you go back to Europe, to your country, and you game there, and you already know the fundamentals. And then you can see, okay, this worked good in second tier city in Argentina. Now I'm here, and now you have an opportunity to polish different parts of your game, because when you go to a harder place, it stops working.
Right, exactly.
And that's very, very interesting, because it's harder to learn if you don't have those fundamentals. But if you do, then you can, okay, like I need to improve like my stacking, my storytelling, get better at teasing. Oh, I didn't ground enough, blah 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 blah. My closes were shit, and of course, like the dates are a bit different. But yeah, so that's how you started only a few months ago. And we're gonna, of course, talk about your first lace soon. So we started talking a few months back when you reached out to me. I think you reached out about coaching or about, I don't remember how you reached out about something. Was it about coaching or about what?
I reached out about coaching, and I offered to fix some shit on the website in exchange.
Oh yeah, I get these offers once in a while.
But yeah.
And then it ended with you. We decided that you decided to go for the coaching calls, and you joined our kind of. It's still called community, but it's soon going to be called online coaching program and community. And by the way, you're going to get access to the materials of the months before you join, because I'm going to change how we release materials, and then people who join always going to get access to the early materials, and it's going to be a way nicer experience. But that's coming in around a month. I still have a lot of work to do to get there. So how did you end up joining community, and how has it been so far?
Yeah, so I like the idea that you proposed, that like maybe I don't necessarily have to do like in-field coaching, like in-person coaching, that maybe, I can opt for like just having like a couple of calls, and just like track the progress and see where I'm at and see how I progress in that regard. And I was like up for the challenge, I like the idea. It was low commitment to me. It didn't mean that I have to like fly to some place, also, just like trying to like catch up with you or something. And so I basically I was curious about that option, and I decided, like quite consciously, to go to a second tier city in Argentina. And it's been a great experience, actually. Like overall, I wouldn't even not like even in terms of Daygame, but it's like just a bit more chill than Buenos Aires. Buenos Aires is really not the best city in the world. I don't love it that much. And I feel that Daygame definitely there would be significantly harder. And upon gaining access to the community, I really did find like the courses there, the texting and the dating courses, like were very good actually, and did give me the structure that I needed for those particular like aspects, right?
Those are actually available for everyone. Those are not just in the community. Those are public.
Oh, really?
Yeah, those have always been public. The community materials are only the specific content I do kind of each month that we work on.
Okay, this is the monthly
only. But
okay.
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, that's kind of more community only, and all the chat that we have there, and the Q&As and everything. That's community
really,
only. No.
Yeah. The chat's really helpful. That I really like that. Just the community itself, like just the guys there, super helpful, and like also like refreshingly like chill place, free of like mental patients that you might encounter, like in this kind of communities usually. So yeah, I don't know. But it's like what is the most important for me is like knowing that when I plateau, when I like come across like some to a point where I don't know how to like advance myself in terms of like my skills, I know I can always book a call and just continue and like stay on track, and that's the important part for me.
So let's talk about your first lay. How do you know how many girls you had to talk to before you got your first lay?
No, but like these numbers, honestly, that's actually I really feel that I have like advanced quite fast, and I have advanced like at this speed because I approach a lot. I approach too much. I'm getting kind of paranoid that like I don't know, like there's like a post on Twitter somewhere about me or something like that. These guys like just approaching everyone. In the city. So definitely, I would say it was definitely it was around 200. I wouldn't say it was definitely not less than 200, because I would say that even like on an average weekend, I would do like 50 approaches for sure. And yeah, I would say that at that point, I kind of like had a good idea of how the set structure should look like. I knew what an instant date is and so on. I was still like kind of not that good in the texting department. I'm still not. And I was also like, I would say that my like dating, just going on dates, kind of like skill set is also like lackluster. But that day I was basically, it was early morning. No, not early morning. It was late morning on a Saturday, I believe. And I was in a park, and there was just some girl like returning from the gym, and I was sitting on the bench there, and I stood up, went to talk to her. It was all in Spanish. My Spanish is like not great, but she seemed interested enough. And I think she proposed an instant date. No, or I did. I don't know. But basically, she had time, and we ended up going to eat something at a place she chose. It's not a good place. I didn't like it. And I don't know. We were like just talking about a bunch of topics. I tried to do like some like the spiking and so on stuff. And then basically at some point I remembered, like the movie stuff, and we started talking about movies, and she's like really into like, I don't know, like an Argentinian movie production. And I'm like, oh, that's so interesting, so cool. I've heard of some of these movies. She's mentioning it, and I just say, let's meet in the evening and watch one of these movies, And surprisingly, she was down for it. And I mean, to my surprise at that point, and that was kind of it. We said goodbye, and then we meet in the evening. And honestly, she was like very cute, like all dressed up, like in high heels and everything, which I really did not expect because I saw her earlier, like in her gym gear, right? And I was like, okay, this is a good sign. But then, I don't know, I kind of like, due to the outfit, I kind of thought that she would be, she wanted to go to like a fancy dinner or something like that. But I was like, you know what? You're hungry. Why don't we just go to my place and I'll cook something? And again, to my surprise, she was down for it. And so we just walked to my place. I did cook something. We started watching the movie, started escalating a bit. We ended up having sex. And then we actually did watch the movie, and it was quite a good movie too. So yeah, that was kind of it.
It's a lovely first lay. Enjoy that while you're there, because things like that don't happen as easily in other places in the world. Let me put
in
it
Europe
like that. They don't happen that they're same delays happen all the time, and wild adventures happen all the time. But yeah, not like this. Not like this.
Right.
This was
Exactly.
just this happens there.
Yeah. It was very smooth, and I like at no point did they feel that like I'm being challenged in any way or anything like that. It was like I guess you could say she was a yes girl. Like it was a very
But
very
the beauty of Daygame is that it's just like in gambling. Why people keep going back to casino.
Right.
Sometimes you just hit the jackpot, and that's that's very beautiful, and it can be like a poker analogy where people come back to playing poker just because they get lucky once in a while. But you can actually develop a skill set, and part of when you play poker, part of it is luck, but it's also very much skill driven. But you can just get one card on a river that saves you. I've had crazy kind of experiences in poker like that, and part of Daygame is, you know, meeting that girl who just is down to have fun, and those are also beautiful experiences. People very often discredit them. They're saying, oh, you know, like, I just run into the right girl, doesn't count. No, like, it actually counts, because once in a part of the game is running into the right type of a girl, and sometimes you just, you know, it's just boom and it happened, and it's beautiful. And other times it's a lot of work and a lot of fun to learn to kind of go through all the steps, and it's very interesting, just as poker is.
Right. I feel actually, you know, yeah, it was actually, you know, like building up to that. You know, I was Daygaming here in like the city where I am in Argentina for like about 2, maybe 3 weeks, and I was getting kind of like frustrated, you know, and I really feel, you know, that the lay came at the right time, you know, because I was just getting, I mean, I wouldn't give up, you know, maybe for another couple of weeks, but I was getting like less happy about it. I felt that, you know, this is like, it's impossible. It doesn't work, you know, it doesn't work for me. It will never work, you know.
It doesn't work for. I recently gave it a lot of thought. I really thought about how many day games, because I've talked to, like, I don't know how many hundreds of day gamers, many, like maybe probably in 4 digits, like online and in person, and, you know, in my old community, and I thought, what's the ratio of guys who try day game and guys who get more than like 1 or 2 lays and on their own, like. And I came to a conclusion that I would say for every guy who I know who became somewhat decent at day game, you know, there have to be 50 to 100 guys who failed, who just got some little results, like a date here or there, late here or there, but nothing more. So it's actually not that unique to kind of have that experience where you're going out for weeks and learning and nothing's working. It's just because day game is much more than fundamentals, you know.
Right.
It's like poker. You can learn the hands of the poker and the rules, but if you want to win in the game, then, you know, it's going to take much more than that. But then people get some lays and they kind of keep going out, or they have buddies that get some lays here or there. They get near misses, they get a date, and it kind of keeps them going. And for better or for worse, you know, as long as people are having fun. But but you recently, let me open the chat. You messaged me. When was that? Yesterday? Was it yesterday? Yeah, you messaged me yesterday, and you said, +1 me, please. Basically, that means in a community group chat, every member has a small number next to their nickname, which shows how many day game lays they have, so that when someone's giving you advice, you understand whether to listen to that or take it with a grain of salt, and kind of, okay, this guy's just starting out, and I shouldn't listen to him that much. They said, hey, +1 me, add 1 more lay to my nickname. So what's the story? What happened? How was this? How did you get this how did you sleep with this second lady?
That was very interesting too. Yeah. So I mean, I guess it always is, but so what happened there was interesting because we just had like the community Q&A, and I remember you talking about how how basically, you know, like the day game doesn't have to happen during the daytime. And I thought, oh no, you know, like up until that point, I was like, oh no, shit, you know, like the moment sun goes down, you know, it's like it's going to be super like intimidating, you know, to approach someone or something like that, you know. And honestly, after hearing that, I was like, okay, you know what, let's try it, you know. So I was like, okay, tonight I'm gonna try. Like it was like Friday, I think, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna try to do some like day game during the night. And it was like I think it was like 10 p.m. or something like that. And I already did a bunch of approaches that day and night. And I ended up being on the bus stop, and there was a girl waiting for the bus, I guess, or actually turned out she was waiting for her friend, and I didn't really see her well. But I basically opened, you know, like with my usual stack, you know, like, oh yeah, you look super relaxed. I mean, like first a compliment and that, and then I was like, okay, because it was night, I skipped the "Are you back from a yoga class?" and I was just like, did you just smoke some weed and so on? And we got into a conversation about weed. And we were like, oh yeah, she was like, no, but I'm trying to find some. And I was like, oh, that's so cool. We can find some together and so on. And then some guys said that she was telling me she's like a DJ or something like that, and was showing me like her favorite like techno songs and stuff like that. And then some guys sat down next to us, and they were like, oh yeah, we're smoking some weed, and we smoked some weed with those guys. And then I was like, okay, this is a good set. Let's just exchange the contacts, and I'll see you later. And we actually exchanged Instagram. And then on Instagram, again, I just sent her like the usual, like, are you always so nice to strangers kind of like message. And she was like, yeah, like, let's just go have a drink when you're free. So basically she date requested, if you will. And I was like, okay, cool, that's great. Turns out also, like, from her Instagram, I gathered she like sells explicit content online, as like, I guess many girls do nowadays.
In Latin America, they do. Yeah, it's very common.
Yeah. So that was, and we end up meeting. She was super late for the meeting. I went to the venue myself, and I waited for her there. It was like it was like 2 days later, and we were there. I think it was on Sunday. And yeah, like, we talk about, she's showing me her tattoos, so on. I'm like touching her a bit, like interested in the tattoos and so on. And then she's telling me about, like, I don't know, her like life philosophy, and like she's very spiritual, and like her family and so on. And then at some point I was just like, okay, let's change the topic. I saw you are selling like explicit content, like, I'm really interested in that. Can you tell me more about it? Can I maybe see some of it, And I don't know if that was a good move, but I mean, it was a good move.
It was not. You almost lost it. You almost lost her by asking to see that. Oh my God, no, never ask to see that, because there's the fun zone, there is the friend zone, there is the sugar zone, and then there is there's this guy zone. And if she was not only selling photos, but if she happened to be also a professional, then you would have put yourself in the professional zone at that moment instantly. You would be viewed as a client at that moment. So very careful with that. It's very good, by the way. It's super good to bring it up as a topic. I always talk I've slept with a bunch of OnlyFans girls from Daygame and not Daygame, and I always bring up those topics, and they're good topics to talk, especially if you're not kind of a horny little kid. They're super cool, especially if you have experience with more girls like that. Then you will have to kind of some stuff to say about the industry, and you will sort of be like the insider of the industry, which I sort of am because of what I do for a living. They already view me as like a insider of the industry. So okay, what happened next?
Yeah, her response was interesting. She said, no, I can't show you. That's for people who can't have me in person. And I was like, okay, that's interesting. And like, after that, I was just like, again, okay, so how about we just go to my place? And she was like, oh yeah, and she was like, earlier she was telling me about how like YOLO she is basically. And she was like, how can I say after like everything that I just told you? I was like, okay, good. And so we went to my place. I was talking about some like bullshit about like nature, because like, like she loves nature, and she was telling me about like her, I don't know, like favorite nature places, whatever. We ended up being at my place, and she's basically rolling some weed, and we're smoking the weed, and I'm trying to escalate, and at some point she's just like, like, fuck off, I'm gonna go home, what are you doing, blah blah blah. And I was like, okay, and I got kind of like not too happy about it, but I didn't like really act out or anything, and like I kind of like managed to gather my spirits, and I started like being very like funny, and I was like, no, I don't want to have sex. I'm just gonna find a 3-hour black and white movie, and we're gonna watch the whole thing. And I was like just making jokes around that, and like we were like there on the bed, like basically, like waiting for the movie to download and so on. And at some point, some other things happened, but I'm not going into detail about it, But let's just say that there were like some like last minute resistance. But in the end, she was like, it was her who initiated it, and it happened, and it was actually a very, very good sexual experience. And I'll definitely be seeing her again. So yeah, that was it.
Okay. Yeah, well, the topic of the month in community, the topic we start this week, I actually was spending like a few hours this morning writing the script for the first video. I'll probably spend an hour more tomorrow. This is a very long video. We are going to be talking about these scenarios where you are back at your place with a girl and you're already kind of, something is already happening, but then she's like, not really. No, let's stop. Let's not do this. And it doesn't always mean what people think it means. It doesn't always mean no. In some cases, it does. And I think it's an important topic to talk about, not just because guys should learn that, but I think that a lot of the advice in the dating, day game, all this kind of stuff community, especially when dealing with these things, I very, even though I used to agree with that advice, now that having had so much more experience in this field and with Stuart, both myself and with coaching guys, and I've realized that some of that advice is very questionable ethically and legally, because a no is a no, And I'm gonna start that community video by explaining the difference between overcoming token last minute resistance and raping someone. Literally, I do think there are some, because guys view rape as someone that's like, oh, I used force to fuck her. Well, not really. If she said no, and then you kind of kept advancing and she didn't say no loud or didn't push you away because she was maybe a little bit scared, well, I think that's rape. Because
it's actually,
she said no, you kept going, she maybe said no one more time in a super soft voice and then didn't push you away, didn't scream no. Like you have to understand girls and then in those situations. So I do think it's a very sensitive subject that's worth exploring from that side of the argument as well.
And what else is, just honestly, during that evening, I kind of realized, that if I just went and kept on escalating, and she would be kind of like not really that turned on, I guess, or whatever, but she would maybe let me just fuck her, it wouldn't really be like, it would be a worse experience, I just felt that
for you, for both.
Yeah, and for me as well, right? For her obviously, but also for me, I just felt that the chemistry was just infinitely better, when it was actually her that really wanted it badly,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
like obviously, like the sex was just infinitely better, and I didn't have to like push her in any way,
Yeah,
so that's the kind
it correctly.
Yeah.
Exactly, you can't be pushy in those situations. You have to. It's a very tricky topic to navigate, because too much kind of escalating, to keep escalate too much in that situation is bad, but if you keep escalating too little in that situation, it's also actually very bad. You need to find like a happy in between, and there's like but there are a lot of rules that people can follow that are fairly easy to kind of to figure out what's what for the average situation. Obviously, that's something that people will need to get a lot of experience on top of the rules on kind of the framework, but that's a whole kind of different conversation. Okay. So you have your first 2 Daygame lays, and then one of them was a same day lay and the other one was an OnlyFans girl. So you had a very good start, and then okay, the first lay we can kind of agree that right girl, right place. But with the second one, there was some work to be done. I mean, of course, again, OnlyFans, it's going to be different with them. They are, if they like you, they like you. But still, she said no, I gotta go, and so you definitely had some things to learn there. You probably learned something and gained some experience. And it was, you had to do some work. It wasn't simply, wham bam, thank you, ma'am, or however they say that. That's kind of cool. We did a coaching call with you a few weeks back. I'm not sure when
Right.
that was, but we did a coaching call with you a few weeks back. What did you learn from your coaching call? Because I listened to a few of your sets in Spanish, and what were your takeaways from that?
Yeah, definitely. I learned like what I feel that it has improved the most since was grounding, and like just like covering like the 3-4 topics, like that I know about her. And like nowadays I just sometimes, if like she's like not asking the right questions or whatever, I have experimented with just like, taking my hand out and like having like 3 fingers out and saying, 1, I am like blah blah blah, I'm from here and here. B, I am like doing this and that here, and I'm here for this long, and all these like the basic topics, right? And actually, even just doing that, I feel has really like incredibly like had an incredible effect on how many like women actually go out with me or like are agree to a date later on. Like again, it's like just this kind of weird thing, that someone will tell you it's going to work, yeah, okay, you just have to exchange all this basic information. And I was like, okay, there's no way that this works. Why would this like have such an important effect? If she likes you, she likes you, but yeah, it did turn out that like that was very, very important. And like my results like have like substantially improved since I started really doing that in sets. Yeah, in addition to that, like we just went over my like sets, and like I just like tried to improve my storytelling. I adjusted, like I tried to adjust like the English that I speak, speak more slowly and so on. So yeah, it was definitely very valuable. But I think like the grounding was like the biggest takeaway for sure.
Okay, so what's up in your game now? Where are you right now? Because you said you're going out so much that it's sort of like, oh my God, what's happening here? Am I dying? Am I sick with the Daygame disease or?
Yeah, exactly. So basically, yeah, it's a problem. I would say that like other domains of my life maybe might be a bit neglected recently, might have been a bit neglected in the last few weeks, for example, because I'm just like basically like I just approaching all the time. I like this weekend I just really wanted and felt that kind of like the kind of anxiety that like motivates you to do something, to like try to open some 2 sets. I like nothing came out of it, but I just like kind of proven to myself that I can do it. And that's one question that I wanted to pose, like about what do you think like the value of that is, like I do, because I do feel that like most of the results, essentially, even for like very experienced day gamers, come from like one-on-one sets, right? But I am I'm grounding the sets now. I'm doing like I think I have a lot more structure. I try to do the storytelling technique more or less every time, but I still don't like always manage to put it in. And I do feel that that's something that I really like to work on. So like do storytelling with greater consistency, and like also just tell better stories. The other part that I feel that like needs to be improved is definitely my like dating game, and inside the like just the dating game, I would say like the important topics would be like the spikes, which I really don't. I mean, I have no problem saying something weird, saying something a bit crazy, or a bit like sexual, or a bit like like strong, but like I don't really know how to follow it up. And the other thing is like obviously like frame control. I don't really like I'm not even sure if I really understand the concept, so those are the like 2 topics that I would say I would have to address in the dating, because I'm basically, I have a lot more dates now. I have like a date like nearly every night or every night, so that's definitely like that's becoming a more important and more pertinent thing to talk about. but yeah, I like, and that's the thing, you know, like I like just the dates are actually a lot more frustrating for me now than day gaming. Day gaming is like a walk in the park, you know. I actually like really enjoy it, you know. Maybe I'm not doing that well, but it's like some activity that I like really, I just have fun doing it, you know. And but yeah, in regards to like the day game sets, I want to do better storytelling. I want to be able to actually, and the other things that I want to do in like the day game sets, I feel that I like, okay, I tease, but I tease, you know, I can't like tease out of thin air. You know, if like some topic pops up that like makes it easy for me to do that, I'm able to do it. But otherwise, I feel that's like kind of lacking, you know, that, and I don't manage to generate that chemistry. And you know, when it comes to like challenging and qualification, I would say it's very similar actually. Like, you know, like I'm kind of, it's like kind of like contingent on like the where the conversation is going. So like I want to be able to call, how, what is it, like generate more opportunities to use that kind of like tools, you know, to improve a set.
Well, so can you define the question that you want to ask?
Oh, really?
We
Oh,
have a
yeah. No,
very broad question right now. Let's define it. What do you want to
no. Yeah,
understand?
yeah. I did post one question in the middle, but I forgot what it was.
You asked about two sets in the beginning.
Oh yeah, no. You see, yeah, that there's a bunch of questions. So what do you think? Like the two sets, is there any point in a beginner doing two sets at all? You know, like beyond just like challenging themselves a bit?
There's nothing wrong with two sets. I think two sets are very good because two sets are not structured, not as structured. There are much more variables in a two set. You know, who do you like? Who is responding better? How is you're talking? You like one girl, but you have to talk to both of them, and then you pay a bit more attention to the one you like. How is the other one responding? How often should you engage with the other one? And is she kind of supportive, or is she, you know, trying to pull her friend away? There are so many variables in that scenario that I think they're very good for people who understand fundamentals pretty well. Let's say someone who has, like, if someone is not getting any results in day game, they shouldn't be doing two sets, period, because they don't understand regular sets, so they should not be wasting there are so many more variables in two sets that someone who's doing terrible with regular sets, they're not gonna be able to manage a two set. It's just not gonna happen. It's exponentially more difficult. It's a next level. So, but for someone who is already doing okay with regular sets and who wants to kind of not be the
Have a threesome?
one to, as well, who wants to not be a one-trick pony who does the same thing in every set, like that. It's because that it happens once you develop your style. Guys in the beginning, they figure out what works for them, and then they do that in every set, and they become kind of, they have found what works, and that's their only tool, and they keep, you know, everything is a nail when you have a hammer, and they have a very big hammer that they're using in every set, and it works in some sets and doesn't work in others. And what ends up happening is it works for a certain percentage of girls, and then that's how intermediate guys get to, let's say, like 1 out of 60. Like they have to approach 60 women to sleep with one of them. That's how they get there. They figure out their style, what works for them, and then they get to that 1 out of 60. But you know, there's still a lot they could be doing much better, and they could be going out with much more beautiful and interesting girls. And to do that, they definitely have to improve. And one way to improve is to do two sets, because two sets force you in a situation where you have to learn new things. Other things include you can go to different locations because you discovered a game that works in one place, and then you go to a different place, and all of a sudden your game doesn't work, or it works worse. And then you have to relearn Daygame. I always say Daygame 90% is the same wherever I've been, but the 10% difference, it makes a difference if you want to get really, really good results. Like those 10% make a very, very big difference. But a beginner, there's no difference for a beginner, for example, because the beginner is not at the level where he's going to understand what those 10% even are, or he's not even gonna understand that there are 10% that should be done differently. He's just doing something and he doesn't really know. Like, he's doing something here and there, and some things he's doing right, but maybe, like, 70% of the things he could be doing better. Those kind of 10%, those are for guys who are kind of already doing good, like intermediate guys, like let's say 1 out of 60, and then they want to polish things, and then they go to a new place and they see, oh shit, this doesn't work. They start looking for what works, and they discover new types of new kind of tools and approaches, and the same goes for different types of girls. A lot of guys do good with, let's say we have some guys who do very well with girls from Russia or Ukraine, but they do really, really bad with girls in their cities, like in Western Europe. But then again, you have so many guys in Western Europe who do very good with girls, with women from Western Europe, but do terrible when they meet, for example, a Russian or Ukrainian, a Serbian, etc. So there are more things you can do than two sets, and you can just change your location, go to Europe. In the summer you're going to be day gaming in Europe, and it's going to be, trust me, it's going to be like if you were giving up in 3 weeks, then you're not going to be happy when you get to Europe. I'm going to tell you that very, very, very fast. Europe is going to be on a completely new level. Like, Europe is going to be kind of like, second tier city in Argentina is math with numbers. And then a harder city in Europe is kind of, if you study finance or you studied computer engineering, then you had some very advanced math. Like, there are places in Europe that are like that. But in general, it's sort of like, kind of substitution and division versus kind of high school algebra. It's that level of difference. That's why I say that second tier cities are so amazing for learning, because you get to get your toes wet. You get to learn the fundamentals. You get to learn the storytelling and all the parts of the thing that you learn. That's really, really amazing, because it makes that transition to Europe so much more easier. You're just gonna have one more experience, kind of like you had there in Argentina, where you're going to be for a while banging your head against the wall and like, oh my God, nothing works. What do I do now? But then if you do the right things, then you're going to crack it, and that's going to take your game to a completely new level. And then you're going to go back to Argentina and you're going to be thinking, oh my God, this is the easiest thing I've ever done in my life. How is this even possible? How can it be so easy? Because that's why guys go to Latin America, because not Buenos Aires. Buenos Aires is not like that, but other places in Latin America are sort of like, how can it be so easy? It's unbelievable, and it is that feeling, and that's why people keep going back. That's why I go back, because I want to have my fun without, complicated game, and so answering I started rambling, but two sets are good, but you can also go to like different parts of the world and do things like that to improve your game. And for threesomes, they are of course amazing. I've had a threesome from a 3-set that I opened. I had a threesome with 2 girls from a 3-set.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, it's so I'm actually I have like a kind of like a follow-up question here. It's something that we've also discussed in the chat. So how much would you say like that culture is what affects these in terms of culture, especially like one topic that's like a really like big topic in the pickup community and so on. Like it's obviously the topic of feminism, and how like emancipated or whatever women are, that's the funny thing, because I think in Argentina, like like the women are very emancipated, and like every girl that I talk to, is like, yeah, I'm a feminist, so on, which is like, it's like kind of far from like the gringo perception, of women in Latin America being like, I don't know, like if there's a perception of like women in Latin America being pure, but for sure there's that perception of like Eastern Europe, right? Of Eastern Europe, there's like that kind of like perception that like girls from like Russia and so on are traditionalist and like anti-feminist, and they're like more like wife material or whatever. I've definitely come across people who think that. So, and like in Europe or like Western Europe, but also I would say like in Central Europe and in maybe, I don't know, the US and so on, women are very like I don't know, like feminist in a Western fashion, right? So how much would you say that affects the game, and how would you say that let's make it harder or easier,
Okay, yeah. So first of all, let's start with the differences between, and I don't want to go in like a very long feminism discussion, but it's a good topic to bring up. There is different types of feminism, and it's a big umbrella term. And what has happened is the guys that hate feminism, they don't hate feminism. They hate the woke culture. That's what they hate. And woke culture simply took the word feminism under their umbrella, turned it up to a nuclear level, and started kind of going super woke just on the topic of feminism. But it doesn't mean that feminism is something that all feminists are woke or anything like that. It's actually quite the opposite. For example, the place where I've met girls that almost all of them identified as feminists, it was Ukraine. And because, and it's also, they have things like that in Serbia, and it's very common in Latin America as well. Feminism is a big topic, but it's feminism that I 100% agree with, and I'm a big supporter of. And what feminism means in these countries, there is a lot of oppression towards women. There is sexual aggression, like rape is way more common. If you start hanging out with more girls in Argentina and really start having these deeper conversations with them, you're gonna hear some stories. Let's put it like that. There's a lot of sexual aggression towards women, both rape and drugging and things like that, and that obviously happens all over the world, but especially physical aggression is fairly, it's much more common, I think, in Latin America, and it's also a big problem in some parts of, like Ukraine, for example. So on and a lot of kind of very like boyfriends that are incredibly controlling. They are jealous because they don't have a lot in these countries, and let's say a foreigner comes or someone with money comes, and they're very afraid to lose their girl, and that's what they're very controlling and kind of oppressing in those scenarios. And that's where the feminism in these places kind of appears. They're gonna say, listen, dude, I decide who I sleep with. I decide who I'm in a relationship with, and I'm not going to be in a relationship with an oppressive dude. And that's why women in these places identify as feminism. But it's not the type of feminism where it's not the angry type of feminism. It's very positive feminism. Like in Buenos Aires, you will see posters all over the place about some cases with some important dude allegedly raping some girl, and nothing was ever proven in court, although there was a lot of evidence. And then people are still extremely angry about that, and then putting up posters and doing a lot of stuff like that. There is, of course, so that's one type of and the other side of the feminism is it's a spectrum. Of course, you have this, and then on the other side of the spectrum is like, we don't need men, we only need them to procreate, and men should be slaves, we should castrate them all, and whatnot. Like, that's the other extreme.
Yeah,
And somewhere like, let's say
being
that
super sensitive about everything, and
yeah, so that's not really, that's more, I think, that the other end of this feminism spectrum, of course. And that, like, first of all, you don't want to date anyone who's on that kind of end of that feminism spectrum, who wants to, I mean, some men want to date them because, I don't know, they like certain things. I'm not going to go into that right now. I have nothing again, this is not kink shaming or whatever, although it probably was, that was not nice. But anyways, so I think there in general, in not just in the West, but in all of Europe, women now have much more freedom. They choose what to do. Having sex is much more kind of okay, and it's much more open. So what I think is happening is, wait, let me formulate this. Give me a second. because I have thought about this topic quite a bit. So let's simplify it like that. If you are controlling in your day game and on your dates and whatnot, and you're controlling your frame too much, you're just being, this is what we're gonna do, or fuck off, that's your attitude, then sometimes women who understand that they have a choice will not react good to that. Whereas still women in kind of Ukraine, like Ukrainians and Russians, will very often react very, very good to behavior like that. Also Serbians. So when then guys who are very extremely controlling, they go to these parts of the world and they're like, yeah, I just had to show her who's the boss, and it worked and it's amazing. And they go back to their country and they're doing that, and women are like, fuck you, dude, like, I'm not gonna sleep with you, you're a moron. And I think that's where this misunderstanding comes from. It's this uncalibrated behavior from men who are just a little bit like, frame control is good, you have to be able to lead, etc., etc. But women have some choice, and you can't do everything. Like, not everything is going to happen the way you like. And of course there are some cases where you should never give up frame. For example, when we're going on a date, we're not going on a dinner, we're not going for a coffee date during the day, even if that's the only thing she offers and she will not do anything else, then we don't go out, because that's not what we're about. I'm not talking about things like that, but there are many cases where men, even men who have good game, they can't get results in the Western Europe because they can't adjust their game to that kind of Western behavior. And that's, I think that's one part of the equation. And the second part of the equation is, just as we have, in this feminist spectrum, kind of from very nice women to completely like crazy women, complete nutcases, in this world of guys learning to seduce women, learning to go out and with women and improve their dating life. Well, we also have guys on very different kind of ends of this, on different places in the spectrum. And if you look in the world of feminism, I would say I don't believe that more than 5%, probably less, of women who identify as feminists are, the type we don't like. I think 90 plus percent, probably much more than 90%, are super cool women, super amazing. I would go as far as say like 95% plus, maybe even more, are super amazing. Yeah. Well, then you look at this world of guys learning to go out and sleep with a lot of women, or whatever, like, or in general improve their dating lives. And you have guys from everything from the incel community. Then you have the incel community. Then you have the Sigma guys who are not far from incel community. It's very close to incel community. I think they overlap a lot. And then you kind of start moving towards the real pickup artists, the hardcore pickup artists. And then you have more and more, you're moving towards kind of day game. Then you are moving to the type of day game that I teach, where I'm not teaching the same stuff to every guy. We're building each guy's game around his personality, with stories that are true for him, and kind of like being a cool dude. Just teaching the dude being cool with guys, yeah. And then you like it's also a spectrum, yeah, from incels to guys that I work with. And if you look at this spectrum, if in a feminism we had 95% plus of women who identify as feminists were amazing, then on this spectrum, like, well, what's your guess? What do you think? What percentage of guys on this spectrum are actually cool dudes? What's your guess?
I would say it's below 50.
I would say it's below 5.
Okay.
I would say 95% of men in this world are complete mess. Like, are a complete mess. We used to have a bunch of these really cool guys in our old group chat, but that also got filled with complete morons pretty fast. And now it's a complete shit show. Like, you see some really good day gamers like just engaging in complete mental masturbation, and
right.
So. Well, maybe not like 5%, but like 10, like maybe 20%, but probably less than that, because there's a lot of unhappy men who are just not able to meet any women, and they're willing to do a lot including lying and using fake stories and techniques like strawberry field and the cube and Barnum statements. All wonderful techniques if you're fine with lying.
Right.
And using manipulative techniques. But if you're not fine with doing that, then well, those they look very, shady and sketchy. So you wouldn't. So, and I think what's happening here is you have, out of all of this community, maybe 10% of guys are really, really cool dudes. All obviously in my community. No, I'm joking. Obviously outside as well. There's a really a lot of cool guys daygaming. They just don't talk about it even with their friends and family. No one knows because it's a big secret.
It's a big. I also feel that's actually interesting. I want to follow up on that maybe because it's there is a lot of stigma around it, right?
Yes,
and I feel
the stigma. I'm writing it down for later.
Right, and it comes from I think obviously like those people misbehaving in various ways.
Of course. So to finish the feminism topic, I think what's happening is you have this spectrum, this group of guys in one way or another kind of being in this manosphere, let's call it manosphere, no, it's in this learning about women and dating and whatnot. And the majority of them are, who they are, and we defined that. And they are doing pretty bad with women. Like I said that in Daygame, from guys who try Daygaming, as I said, I think for like every guy who really succeeds, there are 50 to 100 guys who don't succeed. And it's really, really easy to, instead of saying, you can say, just as you said before, you said it doesn't work for me. Now, as we see, it does. You were just doing the wrong things. Yeah. So it's very easy to say it doesn't work for me. The Daygame is the problem. Or it's even easier to say, because if all your community online is just Daygamers saying how Daygame is good, or whatever type of approaching you're using, it's much easier to say women are evil and things like that. It's very easy to blame the opposite sex, especially when you're doing online dating and you're seeing all this terrible attitude that men see on online dating, on all these rejections and all these failures that they have. It's easy to start hating, and that's what I think men blame feminism for all this problem. They just suck at Daygame, and it's the easiest thing to blame.
Right.
Boom, finished.
Right, but it's actually
long monologue.
Yeah, but I don't know. I mean, for me, it was actually kind of like I felt that like the initial steps that I took that have really have been like actually transformative. Have changed my perception a lot, and actually like having that much rejection, getting rejected that much, actually just I think like a healthy way to process that is just like like it's almost like a Buddhist practice of like non-attachment. Because you'll get all these like numbers and whatnot, and like you'll get like excited about this particular girl that you'll talk to, and you're like imagining like a future together or whatever. Maybe not that, but like you're imagining some things, right? And like it's all just like basically slips through your fingers. Basically you just like you keep losing it all the time. All these like hopes are kind of like terminated over and over again. And I feel that like after a while like you stop feeling like bad about it. At some point it doesn't hurt you anymore, right? At some point you have gain a more natural perspective of like just like knowing that that's part of it.
Well, remember that for one man who succeeds, there's 50 to 100 who don't, and they just give up because they were doing the wrong things. They don't understand what they're doing wrong, and it never works for them. So it doesn't really help for them to do all of these approaches and desensitize themselves, because they will just stop daygaming because it's just not worth it for them. They never learned what works. They never understood what works, what mistakes they're making. And I see it all the time, and I've seen a lot of these guys also learn Daygame when they, again, when they do something about it the right way. Send me a message. #Saint Robert. Let's chat shortly about the Daygame stigma. And kind of, well, for example, in your case, do your friends know you're Daygaming?
Some very close do. I'm kind of like, honestly, I was like very reluctant to even do this podcast because especially because of that, because I know that like if I would float the topic of day game with like my friends, and like maybe not like this. If I would say actually, I'm talking to someone, I would say, oh yeah, I just approached her on the street. That would be fine, But as soon as there is like the aspect of this being like an effort of doing this all the time as an activity, and it also like being supported by like a certain like amount of theory, like everyone's like, okay, you're an incel, even though I'm the exact opposite, doing this, they're basically sitting at home and being miserable, but yeah, it's definitely like it's something that's judged, and it's something that I don't feel I would be comfortable sharing with my like wider social circle at all, not at all. And I'm actually feel that's like wrong, because I feel that like for all the reasons that I explained earlier, like all the like commonly like socially accepted forms of dating, I feel are much less healthy, and I don't feel there's anything like inherently like malevolent or malign or like wrong about like like talking to people on the street. Actually I feel that like for a lot of like women that I approach, it kind of like, even if they don't like me, it just like makes their day like a bit more interesting maybe, like I don't know, like I think as long as you're respectful, I have never felt that I have like really done wrong anyone,
Yeah.
so it's kind of like a sad situation. I feel because I also do feel that it's like it could be a really like it's a valuable thing, it's for me it's been a good journey, like even like psychologically, that I feel that I've learned a lot about like myself and what I like and how I react to different situations, and like gained a lot of courage and so on in this process, and I feel that like even from a standpoint of just like personal development, it's a good thing, that like it's a good effort that I think more men should undertake. But yeah, like for like obvious reasons, there's like a lot of stigma around it, and everybody is like kind of like just very reluctant to even consider it. And I was myself,
Yeah, I think it's understandable. I have nothing against people not talking about day game, because I understand that for most people it's just a part of their life. For me, it's just a bigger part of my life, because for each of us, work takes a big part of my life, and day game is my work, and it's been my work
Right.
for more than half a decade right now. So, but even in the beginning, I was very open, and I did see some kind of resistance from my friends when I started talking about it. But my attitude has always been in life that I am who I am. I like myself. I love myself, and if and I am fine with showing who I am to the world. And then people who like that, they will connect with me on a completely new level. Because you find your best people around you when they start seeing how weird you are, and kind of what's different about you. And the best dudes I've met, first of all of my friends, 100%, including female friends, 100% accept day game, and they're fans of it for one level or another, or some of them accept it, some of them are fans. Again, including women. I've talked about day game with so many women, and it's complicated, because we have guys that are learning how to approach women calibrated in the right way, and in the right in a way that women like. And but most of the guys are approaching women in a way that's a little bit creepy, and I've heard, after having had so many conversations with women about that, I have heard about their bad experiences when someone approaches them, and I have heard about their good experiences when someone approaches them. Even my girlfriend once in a while, has this, hey, like a guy approached me on the street today, and I'm always super curious to hear okay, what did he do, what happened, like. And usually all these stories are just terrible game, really, really bad game. The worst being guys walking with the girl, and then with that, the reactions from I've heard from girls are always, oh, I don't know who this guy is, I don't know when he will fuck off. Because think about it from the perspective of a girl. That's an unknown dude walking with you and trying to talk to you. You don't know who he is. You don't know he's a fucking psycho who's going to try to pull you in a van that he has parked down the street. You don't know that. And women have to live with that reality that sometimes they have to think about that. But if guys are approaching nicely, like, women love it. I've heard so many positive opinions about Daygame from women. I've heard very, very few negative things about Daygame from women. And usually when I tell them what I do, and earlier I used to tell that after I slept with them for a few times for the second time. Now I say that like in a set. I don't care. The most common reaction I hear is, "Oh my God, more men should learn from you." Like that's what women keep telling me. So, but that's from the women's perspective. And when it comes to this, to how men are hiding it, I don't think there's anything wrong with kind of not talking about it, because we live in a society where that is frowned upon. But one thing I really encourage day gamers to do, not a lot of guys are going to do that because they're afraid to talk about day game. But I highly encourage men to talk about this with your fathers, and especially with your grandfathers. And I've heard several day gamers telling me they've done it. Like, I know guys who have talked with that about their dads and their grandfathers. And when I talked about day game with my grandfather back when he was alive, he basically started telling me stories how they were doing the same back when he was younger. How that was completely normal. Chatting up girls on the street was how you meet women. And I recently read Richard Feynman's book. I don't remember the name, but it's an incredibly popular book, and about this physicist who was involved in also development of atomic bomb, and very renowned physicist. And I think he even got a Nobel Prize.
There's a chapter about
there's a chapter about game. About basically gaming, and how he had other guys in college teaching him that stuff, or university teaching him how to hit on women. Like it's incredible. And like some crazy techniques, very interesting, like being a dick towards women and stuff like that. It was unreal. So back in the day, it was actually much more socially accepted, and now we just live in a world where online dating is more accepted and day game is not. So there is stigma around it. There's nothing we can do about it, I think.
But it's interesting, because it's like people act as if this is like some super caveman thing, but if you think about it, Tinder came out, I think, in like 2005 or 2008, something like that, so you don't really have to go. It's not like a paleo diet, where you just eat like a caveman, you basically are just going back like to the 90s. In the 90s, I feel, like people didn't have another option. This is what they were doing, like maybe not in like a systematic way. Maybe they're not learning from each other over the internet, but they obviously the beginnings of game.
They were definitely learning from each other. Like, I think friends were discussing it, and obviously, men, even in Feynman's book, there were other guys who were teaching other guys techniques, what works, what to do, what to say. Like, it all existed.
Right.
And Feynman did it. He didn't like it, but he got results. So, it worked out. So, yeah. The day game stigma, I personally am absolutely open about day game. I have always been since the beginning, with all of my friends, with anyone I meet. And when I tell people something like that, which is out of the ordinary, it immediately shows me as a more interesting person. And I've connected with incredible people when I say that, because when you tell people you do something like that, all of a sudden they start telling you things they don't tell to anyone else in the world. And that's when you have incredibly interesting conversations. So I do suggest to talk about that, but men will probably not talk about that. And by the way, one thing I want to tell about nomads and expats, nomads mostly. Almost all nomads I've met are in Latin America. One of the big reasons is women. They're there to meet women, to have fun, and all day, like a lot of the part of their life is dates and online and going to clubs to meet women. They talk about this every day, all the time. It's just that it's not kind of accepted to talk about it louder and wider, but between themselves, like everyone's there to do the same thing and talking about the same stuff. So it's completely normal.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. But it's I don't think the majority of them are doing Daygame though.
No, but they know what Daygame is. A lot of them know what Daygame is. They've heard about it. I've had a bunch of people come up to me in Buenos Aires. Like I'm sitting in a bar with my friends and my girlfriend, and this dude walks up, shows me his phone, YouTube videos. Like, hey, is that you? Like this shit happens all the time. Like in Daygame cities, even with my super small following of like 2,000, whatever, 2.5 or whatever I have on YouTube. Like this shit happens in the big Daygame cities all the time. So it's just ridiculous how popular it is in those places. But anyways, to finish the stigma topic, the one thing I just want to say is that there are a lot of weird guys doing Daygame, but there are the other group of men who are doing Daygame, and these are the guys that I met some really cool dudes, and those are successful men who have already achieved a lot in their life, whether that's in business or some ex-military guys and things like that. And now these men have learned, they have achieved a lot in their life already. They have changed their lives. They're doing good. And now the story I hear from them is that they just realize there is one thing that they really want to improve. There's one more thing they want to improve. They want to improve their dating life. And now these men understand what works and what doesn't. They've been in business for a while. They've seen all the sales pitches. They know what's good and what's shit. And then these are the guys that are like, okay, like this structured approach to Daygame, like this stuff works. And then a lot of these guys are learning Daygame to kind of fix one more thing in their game. And then, they don't have any stigma about Daygame. And they're incredibly successful, but obviously they're not going to put it on their LinkedIn. Anyways, any other questions you want to go over, senor?
Let me see. Yeah, how do you feel about that? So like that's maybe like actually a related question here. I definitely don't have like approach anxiety, but I like about like the woman that I'm going to talk to. But like, what about the bystanders? The bystanders. I kind of do get nervous, if the street is packed or if it's like a bus stop with like other people there, like standing in line or whatever, and like just in general, or maybe like she's waiting for someone, and another guy comes over or whatever, something like that. How do you feel, about those kind of situations? Have you ever, like yourself, that you have a lot of experience, obviously, have you ever like been, like have you ever experienced hostility, from like a random bystander or from like someone who knows the person? And like
No.
No, in your entire career you never have experienced hostility?
No, I've heard stories, but when you hear stories, and you have to like take into account, I hope like it's not too loud, but there's someone banging a hammer against the wall behind me. I've done thousands of Daygame approaches, and I have seen my students do thousands and thousands of Daygame approaches, and my wings have thousands of.
Hey.
Yeah, so you disconnected for a little bit. Yes,
I disconnected. Yeah.
Yeah. So in general, no. I've done thousands of Daygame approaches, and I've seen students doing thousands and thousands of Daygame approaches, and my wings have done thousands of Daygame approaches. So, and from calibrated good Daygamers, I have not heard, or at least I don't remember, about some stories where someone did anything crazy or they really run into problems or anything like that. I know some guys who have been kicked out of shopping malls. Yes, especially in more traditional countries, and that can happen, but it has never happened. Like I know two people to whom that really has happened, who are good Daygamers. I mean, a lot of morons I know who have been kicked out of shopping malls. That's a different game, because again, if you're being a weirdo and the girl doesn't feel safe with you, she might go to the security and say, hey, like this weirdo started talking with me, like what the fuck is this? And then you'll get kicked out. But if you're a good Daygamer, you know what you're doing. That's the difference between someone who's just starting and someone who's really good. Like if you learn Daygame and you're good, like you're gonna get really good reactions, because even if you learn how to adapt and how to react to everything. So I think good Daygamers don't get many bad experiences like that. I mean, shit happens, but I've had so many boyfriends show up in a set. Oh my God. And it's always like, oh, is this your girlfriend? You have a beautiful girlfriend. I wanted to say hi. I didn't know she has a boyfriend. You guys seem like a wonderful couple. Have a nice day. Shake the guy's hand. That's it. I've even had one case where when this happened and I'm leaving and the girl was like, no, take my Facebook. Like, what? I've seen one case where the guy we didn't notice when I was coaching a guy that the girl was walking with the boyfriend. There was just a lot of distance between them. And that boyfriend maybe wasn't the most positive in the world, but out of thousands and thousands and thousands of approaches, that's the only case where I've seen a problem with the boyfriend. All the cases with boyfriends have been very, very positive for good, again, for good day gamers and guys who are learning day game the right way. I've done, I don't know how many, probably not 1,000, but like many hundreds of sets in shopping malls. And there's one shopping mall in particular where people working on the ground floor knew my face. When I was learning, because it was, maybe not the smartest thing to do in the world, but nothing wrong with that. And in that shopping mall, I was opening next to the security guards. Like literally, there would be 1 meter between me and the girl, and 1 meter, like this was like a triangle. Me, security guard, and the girl, and they never said anything. But that's a coincidence. In that store, they were fine with. They didn't care. I was always calibrated and nice. At the same time, I've heard other people being kicked out of the shopping mall for day games. So it again depends on how calibrated you are. So I think there no problems with bystanders. I've had sometimes when a girl doesn't speak, when I opened to find out whether she speaks English and she didn't, and then someone else came in who spoke English and they were thinking I was looking for some help or something, and then that's a different scenario, of course. But no, nothing.
Like coffee shops, because coffee shop is always mentioned as like a location, but like I never felt like, so far I haven't felt comfortable.
No, I've never had negative experiences in coffee shops in terms of staff kind of saying, hey, what the fuck are you doing? Get the fuck out. No, nothing like that. Of course, there is a difference between when you ask this question to someone who's learning and to someone who's kind of already past like 30 plus lays. There's a difference. For beginners should open in all situations: coffee shops, grocery stores, like boutique stores, like all the weirdest places. Wherever you feel you're scared, you should always do that. Like, maybe it's not the best idea, and it's not, like it doesn't mathematically convert as good, like statistically convert as good as other sets. You should still do it because you're scared. But after you've done all of it and you're good at day game, of course, at that level, you can you will have learned which girls react better, which react worse. That's one thing I've changed my mind about. You can kind of figure out who's gonna very often be a bit more responsive and who's gonna be a bit less responsive. But I still don't let my students pick who they're going to open, who they're not going to open. And I still tell them they should be open, everyone. And it's not something you can give 7 signs that the girl will be positive, responsive to your open. It's more of you pick those small things up by experience. And people who don't know those things, they shouldn't know those things, and they should open anyone. So no, you should be opening everywhere, like bus stops and line in a store. I've done that a bunch of times, and it's all fine.
Like with a compliment, or would you feel that like that kind of situation?
Shit, the same. I always open with a compliment. I don't think I've ever done an indirect approach in my life.
Okay, that's interesting.
Maybe like before day game, but no, there is indirect, direct, indirect. That's a different thing. It's a very specific direct, indirect is something that Tom Torero was talking about, but it's a very specific skill that a beginner will not even understand. What the fuck is that? It takes it takes a decent level of game to even understand the concept. So if a beginner thinks he's doing direct, indirect, he's doing indirect. Like that's it. It's not indirect. It's a different thing.
Right. So and you don't think that, and there's no such thing as for a beginner, like spamming approaches or like whatever, just
there
approaching
is,
too
course.
much. You wouldn't.
No, there is. Of course there is. I think a lot of beginners spam approach when they're doing the wrong thing and they're not learning. They just are looking for to run into the right girl. that is spam approaching, and then you do like 50 sets in a day or whatever. That's complete spam approaching. Yeah, that is spam approaching. That's completely ridiculous. That gives a lot of negative publicity to Daygame, let's call it like that, like, because people see those guys. If you open 50 girls in 2 hours, like, people are gonna, like, sooner or later they're gonna see that. At 10, that's fine. But if you're being uncalibrated and those girls are not happy to talk to you and they reject you all the time, like, it's one thing that people see that you stop a girl and she's chatting with you and she's smiling and giggling, but it's another thing to see someone who opens 10 girls in 30 minutes and 10 girls brutally reject the guy. Like, I do believe if you see that in a shopping mall and you see a guy being like blown, like a guy approaching 10 girls in 30 minutes and all of them reject him aggressively, he might be asking them, hey, do you want to see my dick? And you should call the security. You don't know if he's a calibrated day gamer who has a bad day. He's probably a weirdo, because let's be realistic. If someone approaches 10 girls in 30 minutes, it's much more likely that he's a creep, that he's a day gamer. He's probably, saying something super rude or weird. He's not being a nice day gamer. He's probably someone who, has some problems in his life. And then I'm not saying this is not to say anything bad about day gamers who do that. I'm saying that for every day gamer who does that, I think there are, 10 creeps who open 10 girls in
having
30
a manic
minutes.
episode.
Yeah. Someone like a I don't know, like, that's what I'm kind of talking about. So spam approaching is bad, and people shouldn't do that, but we're never gonna stop them. They're gonna keep doing that because people don't understand that that's not how Daygame works. That's how, people just don't get it. And they're not gonna understand it. Like, it's impossible to explain these things to these people because they don't care, they don't understand. I've tried, I've given up on them. So
Right.
Anyways, any other questions? Let's do one more, and then we've been going for like almost 2 hours already.
Right. I have the last one, which is like, it's totally unrelated to what we were talking about, but it's like,
perfect.
Okay, so let's say I'm on a date and we're talking, and like, it's, I don't know, it's like second venue or whatever, and I want to use like the spike from the video, which is like, okay, so I don't know, you're pretty and all that, but you don't have a boyfriend, whatever, and like that conversation always goes. This is basically something that I could probably look up in the theory somewhere, but I haven't come across it. So yeah, like, okay, let's discuss it.
Yeah.
That conversation always goes in the direction. She's like, no, I don't, blah, 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 blah. And then she's like, what about you? What is a good answer there? I mean, like, obviously I'm basically telling the truth, but, should I be like, right now I'm not looking for a relationship. I'm just trying to have fun, or like,
This is a good question. So what to the listeners, what Niko here is asking is, there is a question that I suggest asking on dates, and I ask this sort of in the second bar. I'll say something like, listen, I don't get one thing. You're good looking, you're smart, you're intelligent, you're kind of fun, and she'll be like, what? Just kind of? What are you saying? You're kind of fun, but why are you single? Like, what's wrong with you? And this is as a tease. This is very playful. She knows I don't mean there's anything wrong with her. Maybe people can just ask, why are you single? Maybe skip that, what's wrong with you? Because if you do that in an uncalibrated way, it can sound bad. And so that's a very nice kind of thing to ask on dates. I love it. I ask it on almost every date. And then a girl might give her answer and then say, what about you? Well, one thing we're going to talk about, I'm going to do a separate video on fucking like construction work behind the walls. First day this happens. I hope my audio editing software cuts it out. There's one thing we're going to be talking this month in the online coaching kind of group and community. I'm going to do a separate video about this, and I've never done this before. And I even came up with the name for it. But that was, that name will be probably changed when I finish the script. Projected storytelling. I will call it maybe projective storytelling or suggestive storytelling. It's how you build beautiful stories that are seeding some idea that through a story you're explaining something much deeper, which plants like a belief about you or about what you like in women or etc. So let's look at your particular case. So what is your goal with relationships, Niko?
I mean, I'm not open to a monogamous relationship right now.
Yeah. But what's your goal with the relationship? What are you looking for? Why are you daygaming? We talked about this in the beginning of the conversation.
Right. Yeah. So I want to meet, like a certain number of like very attractive, very interesting women that like would maybe generally be considered a bit out of my league. And I want to, as I said, also like just get better at doing that and like really normalize this in my life, basically meeting beautiful women, meeting interesting women, having this become something that's part of my regular life and take control of like one certain domain of life, which, like you said earlier, I felt was a bit neglected while I focused on my career and whatnot,
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I would say that's it.
And what do you want to do with those women?
Well,
you've said this before as well, or I can tell it. I can repeat your words.
Okay, do it.
So you said you want to go to different parts of the world and you want to meet women there, but you really like to spend time with these women because they can show you the best places in a city, and you really have the best time you had in these places is with these women. But then eventually, a few years down the line, you do want to start a relationship. When you've traveled the world, you've done and you've seen things, and then you've met maybe someone you really really like. So you can tell them what you told me, or you can tell them what I just told you. So your goal, you're currently traveling. You're few months in one place, few months in another place, and of course you can date. If you go to a new place for a month, you will go on some dates and date someone. But I've had my fun, and kind of sleeping with someone just once is kind of boring. I really prefer connecting with someone and spending some quality time together, because that's the best way to know the people there and really connect with someone. And but I still want to travel for a while. I'm not ready to kind of start a family like now, but maybe a few years down the line, when I've seen the world and I've met the right person, maybe then I'm definitely open to that idea. How does that sound?
I don't know,
true.
like
it's what you said. It's what you said, but in different words. You're not
right.
saying I want to fuck an X number of girls and there's no way we're doing anything ever. You're saying I want to travel, I want to meet women, but I don't want to sleep with them once. I want to have someone I'd meet in each location. I want to spend with someone like a bit more time. And then a few years down the line, if I meet the right women in the right scenario after seeing the world, I definitely want to have something a bit more meaningful.
Right. So you don't think it's a problem to like float that promiscuity a bit?
No, there's absolutely nothing wrong. You're a foreigner. What do they expect? They expect you to say, "Oh, I'm here to look for a wife. Marry me."
Right.
Like it just.
What about the question that the related question that always comes up is about the history? Like that's like also like a typical, like some would say it's a shit test. How many women have you slept with? That kind of stuff.
I don't think that a woman has to know how many women I've slept with, and I don't think I've told my lay count too many times. If I play questions game and they ask, I will usually, even if they ask in a questions game where the rule is the way I play, that you have to respond and you cannot lie, I will at that moment, if they ask it, I'll say, listen, there might be some questions you don't want to know answers to. If you want to know, I will tell you. But I'm giving you an opportunity to change the question. Like I don't want to answer it, but the rules of the game are I have to. I will if you want, and if they want, then I'll tell them. And then they will say, "Oh my God, what the fuck?" I'll say, "Well, baby, you have the chance to be 173, or whatever the number is." No. And no, you don't have to really worry about that. And you can say, I used to be a man whore when I was like in my early 20s, and I used to go clubbing and I did all the crazy shit. And you can definitely, there's nothing wrong with that. And if you're still man whoring, there's nothing wrong about man whoring right now as well. And just the important part is whatever you answer, don't lie about your intentions. There is no, guys think that women are always looking for boyfriends. It's bullshit. They're not. Like, it's fine to be a fun boy, someone she's gonna have fun with. It's totally fine. Just be classy about it. Don't say I want to fuck 100 women before I find a wife and she's gonna be a hot bitch. Yeah, like if you do that, then well, you know, there's certain type of women who are gonna go for that, and there is, by the way, there are women who are gonna go for that, but majority will not. So just be classy about it. Whatever your intentions are, be classy about it. Don't be a jerk. Just be calibrated. Be the smooth guy. Be the James Bond, you know? James Bond is a fuckboy, and women still love him in the movies. Yeah. Okay. So after having chatted with you, I said view this as like a, you know, chat about you and ask any questions you want to know and blah, blah, blah. And you have actually opportunities to ask me questions every fucking month, because we're doing monthly Q&As with like any day game and dating related topics and whatnot. And let's spit out some advice specific to you after this conversation. And it's actually kind of pretty simple, and we've talked about this already. So first of all, I'll say keep working on the fundamentals in Latin America as much as you can. If you know that structurally you're kind of fucking up storytelling, then keep working on that. If you see that you need to do 100 approaches to sleep with one girl, okay, you're maybe not going to have a good enough sample size, but you know, just keep polishing these things in Latin America as much as you can while you are there, because day game is easier where you are right now. So then when you go when you're doing good in Latin America, let's say you're like, you know, 1 out of 30 in Latin America, which is okay for Latin America. It's good, but you know. So when you're doing good in Latin America, you can go to Europe, and Europe is going to be very interesting, because if you're good in Latin America, it means you have fundamentals, and you know, you're the guy who smokes weed with girls, so that always works here. You'll have the fundamentals, but you'll go to Europe and you'll see that, oh shit, many things don't work anymore, like especially on dates and things like that. Like it's going to be so much more interesting when you get back to Europe, and you will going to be forced to again improve your skills, and that's going to be super interesting if you're going to keep learning the right way and then asking the right questions and but definitely, yeah, the simple advice is do as much as you can in Latin America, and then go to Europe and expect it to be harder and expect having to learn a lot, but that's going to be so interesting if you're you know, if you're a logical guy who understands the model and then is able to pick those things up. It's going to be super interesting. Just and keep asking, like, come up, because you have decent questions that you ask now. Like, ask those questions in the community as well, because I read most questions in the community. I maybe don't respond as much to texting questions there, because there are other guys who can. That's the simple shit, you know. There's a bunch of people who can respond to that, but anything else, just ask good questions there, because there are a bunch of really good day gamers there as well. Let's just say from the old community, all the, like, we had some like really good day gamers. All the best of them have been invited. Like they're invited as advanced guys to this community. That we have some really good day gamers in the community, and just, you know, kind of do a coaching call once in a while, just because probably you're just don't know what you don't know right now. And those things about storytelling, etc. Like, just, you know, look at what's your budget, you know, whether that's once a month or once a few months, like, who cares? Just do whatever works for you. And because I do think that that's a simple thing that we can start doing when we're doing good in life. You know, we don't have to go out for 3 weeks with 0 results. We can kind of have someone listen to our sets and then just say, okay, you know, instead of spending like months on figuring this out on my own, I just spent, you know, X amount of euros and someone else figured it out for me. And it's, you know, it's going to be fairly easy. But keep enjoying Latin America, keep working on technicalities, and then Europe is going to be super interesting for you if that happens.
I'm actually really looking forward to that, you know, like, because you've been saying that and everyone else saying it, you know, Europe is impossible, you know, it's super hard.
It's not hard. It's not hard. It's easy. It's compared to Latin America, it's hard.
Right. I'll be here in Latin America for another couple of months, and I plan to like do this quite intensively, keep doing it at the pace that I'm doing it, which is like really high. So I do hope that by the time that I go back to Europe, I'll not be totally clueless. I'll have some tools.
You will feel clueless in Europe, and that's fine. You're just gonna learn. Like you get good at computer game at one level, but then when you switch to a harder level, it's much harder. Like you gotta relearn shit. But that's not in a bad way. It's in a good way. Like it means you have a skill level where you can start learning there. Europe is not hard. Whoever told you that just has no game. Like that's it.
Right.
Anyways, this has been fun. Thank you for doing this. This ended up being twice as long as I expected it to be. I usually try to do podcasts no more than an hour, but we were having a good conversation. You had good questions, and we talked about a lot of interesting topics, so I decided to keep going. So thank you for doing this, and hopefully one day see you in Europe.
Right, and thanks for having me. Ciao.
Well, that's it for this time. And as I said in the beginning, if you don't have hundreds of hours to go through all the content that's available online to find stuff that actually works, then head over to strobert.blog. It is strobert.blog to get access to the model I use to coach my students, explained in a step-by-step way, my texting guide to convert more numbers to dates, and my dating guide to have more of your dates and in a bedroom, all of that available for free. And if you want to learn dating with me in Thailand, Vietnam, or Japan this winter and spring, then the link to learn more about coaching is available in the description. Thank you for listening and see you next time. Ciao, guys.